Alright, in this video, we're going to go over how to make a ground slam attack. This also applies to any types of animations that we may want to play when we go from falling to landing. So that could work for something like a wall slide. Then when you land on the ground, wanted to play an animation. Alright, so we're going to be accomplishing this by using something called animation overrides. What are animation overrides? They are a way to literally override whatever animation you're currently playing with something else. We see that there's 4 nodes related to this. There's the play animation override. And this has the animation sequence that you can select. You can select what you would like to play when you perform the override. You have slot names, play rate, starting position, and an output of an animation length. This would usually be used for something like a delay. So you can delay for the animation's length and then continue your logic. Or you can actually use the play animation override with callbacks. Has all the same things except for the on completed and the on cancelled. So when the animation completes, you can have the callback pin, which will fire that. And if it, for whatever reason, is cancelled by using the stop animation, it would then fire off of here. And we do see this little clock in the top. This means that's a latent node and can only be called within the event graph and not within a function, because functions are self-containing. They're supposed to just run their logic and be done. And this fires and then has the potential to be referenced in the future. So it's a latent node that can finish later after it starts. And then we have, like I said, the stop all animation overrides and the stop animation override by group. Now, what are slots and groups? If we go ahead into our animation blueprint, we can go into the animation graph, and we'll see here we have the option to add in, when we search an override slot. Now, I've added 2 within here, one called airborne slot. This will be used for bow attacks, and one called default slot. This is actually going to be where the animation plays that we are wanting to play. So it's almost like a injection site where we are overriding this animation and instead playing ours. So it'll output what we want instead of what should normally be playing. We select this, we see there's a slot name and a group name. Both of these are just default for now. Something like this, we'll see I've changed to airborne slot and airborne group. That will be used in the future. So for now, just add in a default slot. All right, now this is my own personal choice. I've added the actual ground slam under the enhanced input action for crouching. So that adds in the feeling of like if you try to crouch in the air, something actually happens instead of, just nothing. You could add this as a separate input action if you'd like, but this is just how I've done it. So we have the player states. Off of none, we want to do a switch on movement mode. If we are walking, that means we're on the ground, we'll just still perform the regular crouch. If we are falling, so we are in the air, we'll set that player state equal to player states.attacking.ground slam. And so you can add in a sub tag called ground slam. If you don't know what this tag container is, I should have mentioned, please make sure to go watch the previous video. We changed the player states into a gameplay tag container to allow for a little bit more complex player states. And then we need to do a jump to node. We'll just call it ground slam. And then you can copy that, go back into the animation blueprint, go into airborne, and we will add in a jump called ground slam. Now for this specific animation set, we'll see that there are 3 parts. There's a start, single frame, looping, double frame, and a finish. So this is something like 2 frames as well, maybe 3. So this is a little bit weird because we'll have to play a start, and then we'll need to go into the looping, and then at some point when we touch the ground, we need to do the finish. So we do the start, that's a non-looping animation, and when it's completed, so we get the time remaining is equal to 0, we can transition, and then we'll loop. playing the looping animation as a loop. Now we don't need to connect back to falling or jumping because the expectation is, at least for my expectation, is that if you start a ground slam, you won't get interrupted. Maybe you would like, if you were to get hit while you're in the air while ground slamming, to then go into here, and you can do that. But for now, we'll keep it simple, just like that, since we haven't added in any combat. Now, the one thing we notice is there's no way to add in the finishing element. Because this is our airborne state machine, it's only when we're in the air. And we can't go into the regular locomotion and just add in some type of a jump that connects to the finish because there's no way to go between them properly. So that's why we need to use animation overrides, and we will fire it if we go all the way up here to where our on landed is. This is what we're going to use. We know when we've run the on landed delegate that we've touched the ground. Whenever that fires, that's actually exactly what we need. We have now landed on the ground, so we'll want to play that animation. Now, if you remember what I just said for animations with callbacks, sorry, the animation override with callbacks, it can't be within a function. So we actually see that I've added in a custom event called onLanded custom event. Previously, we just had a function that would run called onLanded. You can connect this into here, and this will fire our custom event whenever we've landed on the ground, or you can just select the name of the custom event to be able to move this around and keep things a little bit clean. We do see that the on landed, the original on landed, looks like this, and the new will look like this. So all we do is add in a play animation override with callbacks, and then when it is completed, this is the air attack end. When it's completed, we'll set our player state back to none. So that makes sure that we have completely finished out the animation. You could do this another way by adding in a jump to node and then making another jump within your locomotion, but then you would need something like a callback for the on state exit if you were to have a new oops, that's a comment. If you were to then have it in here, you would need to add in a state exit, and that's just adding in more and more things. So for now, we'll keep it simple, just using an animation override with callbacks on completed. Perfect. And that will let us do the animation, and then when we hit the ground, it'll finish. To add in a little bit of more interesting movement, we'll call it, we can go in here, go into airborne, air attack loop. We can on state enter event name, create a callback called slam start, go into our event graph, create a identically named custom event, and then we can affect our player's velocity, for example. That will make it feel like we are having some actual movement as we're going down instead of just kind of slowly floating down. We'll see here I've gotten our reference to our character, their movement, their velocity. I've multiplied everything times 0 but the x velocity, so that will allow us to kind of still move a little bit to the side as we're going down. You could multiply that by 0 and you would have just a complete straight going down. Both of them feel kind of fine. It's your discretion what you would like. And then subtract from the z whatever value you like, setting that as the new velocity. And that will create the actual feel that we're slamming to the ground while still playing everything that we would like. And I do think I failed to mention, specifically mention, I showed it. This needs to be player states dot attacking dot ground slam. So very specifically that this is the ground slam when we play the animation override. Otherwise, if you were to leave this case as just attacking, this wouldn't actually run, and it could actually cause problems if we were to have any state that was just attacking. We need it to very specifically be dot ground slam. Perfect. That should be everything for this. I hope I haven't forgotten anything. I tend to record these retroactively after I've already implemented stuff for a little bit of time. So if you have any questions or anything's not working, please feel free to ask.